This afternoon we're going to take another look at my customer Mark's. It's a rear drive shaft for Ford F450 or a 550, I don't know which. Anyways, this we looked at in video 361 basically last week, and he's trying to just resolve a low tone vibration that this truck is driven into, and they've been through tires and rims and doing the due diligence. So this is the next step in the chain. And this is the one that had the drumming noise that I could spin the throttle up and down and on the balancer, and I could get it to do a low tone chattering noise. And it also had a large amount of epoxy material on the exterior of it to prevent it from corrosion, rusting. We're in Maine, it's the Rust Belt, I get it. The only problem with that is I'm not anti doing that. It's just that it's very, very hard, like impossible, to get that on there evenly, and that was a contributing factor to this here. So we'll look at the drive shaft and we'll discuss the POR 15 material or whatever it was. Once again, not anti doing that, and I get the corrosion. I live here too. So I stripped this with ancient Indian fire starter, one of those big propane wands, and I disassembled it and just took the tube and the slip yoke and the individual pieces outside, and I just warmed it up gently, evenly. I didn't put a bunch of heat in any one spot. I just did it evenly and cooked that paint, and that's the stuff. That's the amount that I scraped off. And when I was scraping it off, in places it was like peeling an orange. That's what it reminded me of. It was thin and, like one ply in some areas, but you could physically see when you looked at it close, there was a big bag in it. I mean, inevitably, you paint this stuff on there, it's not spinning. So it's just one of those things. I'm not criticizing anybody. It's just a virtually impossible thing to do, and it does have an effect on how these things run. What was underneath is pristine, so I took all that material off. This weighed almost 6 ounces, and that's just what I picked up. I took all the material off and cleaned it all up and then sandblasted it. And it's got a pair of new SPL 55X's, which is the 1480 series Spicer Snap Tight. So, grease fitting in the slip yoke. It's not whizzing around because I haven't put it in there. But that slip yoke, when I took it apart, had no lubrication in it. It wasn't dry, it was slippery, but there was any perceivable amount of grease in there at all. And I mean, grease is not a structural item, but it is a lubricant. And in these slip yokes that they slide tight, it's a cushion, and it will take up a couple of 3/1000ths. Now is the chatter. It does have a hole for grease fitting. It is packed full of good red grease, real thick, tacky red grease. It was pristine inside. I'm going to put the factory boot clamps back on it. I have those cleaned up. So this is going to fight another day. And as you can see, it's all sandblasted. And I'm going to paint it with a nice even layer of paint hanging up in the paint booth, and it'll be even. So, having said all that, that's 2,500 RPM right there. 0 at the transfer case. There's nobody home. 0 at the rear axle. I wouldn't call this one a weight farm, but it did have some weight on it. And obviously eliminating the irregularities of the paint, but also the irregularities of the factory balancing. They're notorious for overbalancing things. I've got a fraction of the weight on it now that it had before. So overall, I think this is going to be a win for Mark's truck. I mean, it's definitely performing better in the balancer, and it's going to live to fight another day. So we're going to take that as a win and get some paint on this and get it back to Mark.